All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
Today, we are taking a look at something.
Yeah.
Well, it seems pretty simple on the surface, but I think we can really dig into it and see what we find.
Absolutely.
So it's a little snippet of dialogue between two characters.
Okay.
Mason and Jackson.
Got it.
They're getting ready to go to some kind of like formal dinner.
Fancy.
Yeah, fancy dinner. And reading through this, I get the sense that Mason is kind of like in a hurry.
Yeah.
And wants to get going.
I see.
And Jackson is more taking his time.
Okay.
Really wants to look his best.
Uh-huh.
So what stands out to you about this interaction? What's interesting to you?
Well, I think it's really interesting how much we can learn about people from just observing them as they get ready for a social event.
Right.
You know, it's like this little window into their personalities, their anxieties, their priorities.
Yeah.
Like you said, just from these few lines of dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can already tell that Mason is all about efficiency.
Uh-huh.
You know, he even says every single time, why did I even bother telling him to get ready an hour ago?
Yeah, totally. And you can practically hear the exasperation in his voice.
Right.
Like he's been through this a million times before.
Exactly.
With Jackson.
And Jackson just keeps going and going.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Jackson is agonizing over a blue shirt versus a maroon sweater.
Yeah.
You know, and he's asking Mason for his opinion.
Right. And he's totally playing with him, too.
Yeah. He's got that playful, oh, so you've been noticing my eyes, huh?
Classic.
Like he's completely unfazed by Mason's impatience.
Yeah, and that really highlights the contrast between their personalities.
Right.
Like you said, Mason seems very future-oriented.
Uh-huh.
He's thinking about getting to the dinner on time. He's got the big picture in mind.
Yeah.
Whereas Jackson is more present-oriented. He's focused on the experience of getting ready, of looking his best.
The details, yeah.
Exactly. It's all about the details for him.
Okay, so we've got Mason, the efficiency guy, and Jackson, the detail guy.
Right.
And I'm thinking about those terms. And it makes me wonder if this could also be about how they each deal with, you know, the anxiety that can come with having to go to this fancy dinner.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're onto something there because, like, for Mason, his anxiety seems to be all about time, about being late. You know, he's got this whole schedule in his head, and he's sticking to it. So his coping mechanism is to be super efficient.
Right, to control the time.
Exactly. Whereas Jackson seems more concerned with his appearance, with making a good impression. So he's channeling his nervous energy into getting ready.
Right.
Into making sure every detail is perfect.
So it's like they're both dealing with the same underlying pressure, this social event, but their ways of coping with it are totally different.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to the bigger picture here, which is that communication isn't just about what we say. It's also about how we say it.
Right.
And the motivations behind it.
Okay.
Like in this case, we could say that Mason is more of a low-context communicator.
Okay.
He values directness. He says what he means. Whereas Jackson is more high context. He's playful.
Yeah.
He uses humor. And the meaning is often embedded in the subtext.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, I'm also curious about their relationship in general.
Right.
Like, do they clash over these differences? Or do they find a way to appreciate them?
That's the million-dollar question in any relationship, right?
Right.
Learning to navigate those differences.
What do you think, based on this snippet?
Well, I think there's a certain level of acceptance there. Like, they've been friends for a while. They know each other's quirks. And even though Mason gets exasperated, I don't think he's truly annoyed by Jackson. It's more like he's resigned to it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is just how he is. And I think Jackson's line about overthinking being his superpower, that kind of sums it up.
It did.
He's self-aware, and he's comfortable enough in their friendship to poke fun at himself.
Okay, so they've got this dynamic that works for them.
Yeah, I'd say so.
They've found a balance.
Right.
Even though they have different approaches to things.
Exactly.
I love how we've gone from this simple conversation about getting dressed.
I know, me too.
To all these insights about personalities and communication styles and coping mechanisms.
That's amazing what you can uncover.
It is, and it really makes you think about how much is going on beneath the surface.
Absolutely.
In any interaction.
Even the most mundane ones.
Right. And I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners today.
What do you think?
You know, just to be mindful of the fact that there's always more to the story.
Yes, and to be curious about the people we interact with.
Right.
To try to understand their perspectives, even if they're different from our own.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's always a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.